are trickling in. Welcome everyone. Welcome to APPNA Merit Healthcare Research and Innovation Landscape in Pakistan webinar series. It's a pleasure to have you all. It's a pleasure to continue this process. My name is Danish Bhatti. I'm a movement disorders neurologist at the University of Nebraska Medical Center currently. I'm the chair for APPNA Merit for 2021. So I'm just starting with some house rules before introducing our speakers. So these are CME approved sessions. So these are AMA Category 1, PRA Category 1, ACCME recognized CME that is being offered by APPNA through their vendor AMedGo. And I'm again very thankful to APPNA RISA Committee, Research, Education and Scientific Affairs Committee, and RISA Committee Chair, Professor Adil Ajwad Bhatt, who very kindly, graciously donated funding for covering the cost of CME. So there is no cost to CME for you except for attending the session. And then we issue the CME every quarter. So we have issued CMEs for 2 quarters, the first 6 months already. If you have attended any of those sessions in the last quarter, last 3 months, and but have not received an email on getting the CME, then reach out to us at appnamerit@gmail.com and we'll guide you how to receive your CME credit according to the number of sessions that you have attended for these healthcare webinars. I again will share that these are learning webinars for all of us, and the goal is to see how we can strengthen the infrastructure and culture of research and innovation in healthcare in Pakistan. So we invite speakers from Pakistan and from Pakistani diaspora to talk about various aspects of healthcare research and culture. And some of them are industry representative, but they are strongly advised to only talk about appropriate things. And we have to have them do disclosures before all of these sessions. And we're not specifically supporting any commercial activity at a institute level. I might have personal interest on some commercial activities, but there's no APPNA Merit involvement in any commercial activity whatsoever. So these are for learning only. But in between, we have been inviting some true research scholars, just like the speaker today, who properly and thoroughly do academic research of very high quality at a very high level to share their experiences of healthcare research and give some suggestions or thoughts on how we can improve the healthcare research infrastructure and culture in Pakistan at a national level, at a large scale. So with that, let me pivot over to our speaker for today. It's a great pleasure to invite a very, very dear friend and mentor, Professor Dr. Mustafa Saad Siddiqui. Professor Siddiqui is Professor of Neurology and Neurosurgery and Division Chair for Movement Disorder Division and Co-Director for Deep Brain Stimulation Surgery Program at Wake Forest School of Medicine in North Carolina. Professor Siddiqui is a movement disorder neurologist and leader in the field and have been a great mentor and advisor to me. Professor Siddiqui did his medical education at Army Medical College in Pakistan in 1989 and worked for Army Medical Corps for 10 years. He completed then, after moving to US, his residency in neurology from Drexel University in Philadelphia and did a fellowship in movement disorders and deep brain stimulation with a giant of deep brain stimulation, Dr. Michael Oken at University of Florida in Gainesville, who is currently leading a DBS think tank internationally on how to design deep brain stimulation in the future. So Dr. Siddiqui has been very active in clinical research. He has been principal investigator in more than 20 international clinical trials. He has written chapters in Continuum, which is kind of the Bible of neurology for general neurologists and primary care practitioners on movement disorders and deep brain stimulation. He has worked on guidelines for DBS. And I also personally know him for our involvement in Parkinson's study group. Dr. Mustafa Siddiqui is currently the co-chair for functional neurosurgery working group within Parkinson's study group. He serves on ethics committee, data safety monitoring board and at his institution. He's mentor to many clinical trials in Parkinson's study group, and he has been selected on Best Doctors of America list since 2012 and serves on their expert panel and he has served on expert panels for American Academy of Neurology and National Registry for Deep Brain Stimulation in United States. And it's a great pleasure to invite him to talk about a basic concept, a basic topic on being a principal investigator. So he'll be giving an overview of what someone should know as a principal investigator. And I think that's a very, very important key in the culture of research in Pakistan. What my understanding so far by listening to all these different talks is that there are different pieces and components available. There's funding, there's interest, there's institutions, there's patients, there's some record system, there's CROs, contract research organization. But I think the key ingredient missing in the whole picture are the principal investigators, people who are willing to put together a trial, run a trial, and take on the responsibility of enrollment, recruitment, following, examinations, record keeping, and presentation, writing, and so on and so forth. So I'm really, really looking forward to this session. I think this session today and then the recording of it will be a major resource for healthcare research in Pakistan. With that, let me hand over the platform to Professor Dr. Mustafa Saad Siddiqui for his presentation. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Bhatti. It's an honor and a pleasure to be on this forum. I've been listening to all the lectures in this series, and it's been quite enlightening for me. Dr. Bhatti, those of you who know him, he's an inspiration in education. And for me, I've known Danish for many years now. And every time I meet him, the thing which I always think is that he just has never-ending energies. And you can see that how he has compiled this team and this effort in education and research. So thank you very much. It's a pleasure. So coming to today's topic, let me start sharing my screen. Hope this is visible. I'm sharing my screen now. Okay. So those of you who have attended this series by Merit Research and APPNA Merit, and those who want to attend it, you can always go on their YouTube channel and attend the previous lectures on this. You have heard from different stakeholders in clinical trials. You have heard from CROs, you have heard from people who really made are big names in innovation, and they shared their experience. You have heard from entrepreneurs in clinical medicine. And so one of our goals in APPNA Merit is to really bring to you all what we can from our end, we can share with you, so that clinical trials start happening at a much larger scale than what they are happening right now. Really, Pakistan has all the potential to be a big player in clinical trials. And one of our neighbors, India, is already a big name, and there is no reason why Pakistan cannot be in that category. So I chose this topic to really encourage aspiring principal investigators, as well as those who are already doing trials. It's more from a peer-to-peer type of a thing. I've been involved in this, and I've looked at this from different sides. So I wanted to share what I've learned over these, I think, 17 years of clinical trials. I do not have any disclosures in the context of this presentation. So why become, the topics I'm going to cover is, first of all, why become an investigator in a multi-center clinical trial? What's in it for me? That means if you are interested, what's in it for you? And what's the road to becoming a site principal investigator in international multi-center clinical trials? Who are the key players in a clinical trial? The responsibilities of a PI, and pearls and pitfalls from one PI to other potential PIs. So who am I? Why am I giving this talk? I've looked at clinical trials from different angles. I've been involved in different types of clinical trials, which include drug trials, brain surgery trials in which brain stimulation devices were used, and gastrointestinal infusion trials for Parkinson's disease. And then we participated in a gene therapy trial, which turned out to be the first gene therapy trial which came back positive in any neurological condition. So became the #1 health headline when it was first reported. I've also looked at different clinical trial aspects. So I've been on the ethics committee and know how the IRB works, what are the considerations at the IRB level when we are determining is this trial appropriate, or does it have the enough safety things in place so that the rights of human subjects get well protected. Then I've been on data safety monitoring board for different clinical trials, in which we look at data, how that data is being, at the integrity of the data, as well as the safety of the subjects. I've also been an independent medical monitor, in which my job is to make sure that the safety aspects of a multi-center clinical trial is taking place as per the protocol by FDA. And then I've been on steering committee and on American Academy of Neurology's Committee on Quality Measures. So I hope my talk, I'm able to give you some useful information in this. So just to make sure that we understand what is a clinical trial. A clinical trial is a research study on human volunteers which prospectively evaluates the health-related intervention and safety and efficacy on a health outcome. There are two types of clinical trials in terms from a PIs or an investigator standpoint. One is a multi-center clinical trial. Often they are international studies by big giants. Recently, you all heard about the clinical trials on COVID vaccine taking place in Pakistan. That's an example of a multi-center clinical trial. It has its different phases, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4. And then there are investigator-initiated clinical trial. In this talk, I'm going to be focusing on the multi-center clinical trials. The investigator-initiated trials are when you become a big player in the world of clinical trials, and you really know all aspects of a clinical trial, and you feel that there is a pilot trial you want to do, then you work on it and get the funding, and then you really do a pilot trial. So the different phases of clinical trials are, first is the phase 1 trial, which is a new treatment which is tested in a small group of healthy volunteers for the first time to evaluate its safety and a safe dose range. Usually in a context of Pakistan, or for that matter, many other places, phase 1 trials are only 1 or 2 PIs are selected for this trial because it's very labor intensive, and they really want to, because the next stages of a drug development are dependent on the phase 1 trial. So it's hard to participate in a phase 1 trial. The phase 2 trial is done on a treatment once they have passed the phase 1 trial, and it's on a larger sample of subjects, this time with disease and not healthy volunteers, to further test safety plus check for efficacy as a secondary outcome. So they are also looking for a signal as a for measuring the efficacy, which is always the ultimate goal of a new treatment. And in phase 3 trial, a treatment is tested for efficacy as primary and safety measure. So efficacy is the primary measure and safety is the secondary measure. And now a very large group of patients are tested on that. Phase 4 trials, I think, might be happening, but they are not common. And it's more like trying to find out an approved drug and its optimal use and get some measures about safety and efficacy. So why participate in a clinical trial? It's really a win-win for all stakeholders. And I want you to take this message that it's not just a message for you, it's a message for the institution and all stakeholders. So first of all, we are all in the field of medicine and science because we want to advance science, we want to do good for the humanity, we want to build newer treatments. We all have, most of us have received COVID vaccine. That's another example of how we are benefiting from a clinical trial. The translation of basic science research is done into prevention, diagnosis, and treatment of human disease. Contrary to what many think in academia, where there's a lot of emphasis on NIH, and I'm not saying that NIH plays a very important role, but really majority of the drug discoveries came from pharmaceutical industry. And so their role in bringing these new treatments should be well respected. In terms for the patient, who are the research subjects, it's an opportunity to help other patients and science. And really, believe it or not, that's the biggest motivating factor for a patient to participate. When I offer a clinical trial to a patient, the large majority say that they want to help other Parkinson patients with newer treatments. And so their participation is for altruistic reasons. They can also have direct benefit from a clinical trial. They get much closer level of monitoring. There's diagnostic testing involved, which cost thousands of dollars. They receive better care since they are under the microscope of FDA or regulatory authorities. And then in most cases, they are likely to get the drug as well and possibly experience a treatment effect. From an institution standpoint, clinical trials are also very attractive. Overall, per patient, the average cost which is given to institution is about $37,000. The mean cost of conducting a clinical trial in America is about $19 million. It's also a matter of reputation for an institution to participate in clinical trials. And also these funds can be used to develop research and clinical programs by salary support for coordinators and other research program development. And now for the PI, what are the benefits for the PI? So first of all, it's a great way to advance your career in academics. It's a great way to develop a reputation in research. You are able to network with the big names in the field. When you go to a meeting of PIs and clinical trials on the same table, you would be sitting with people who wrote textbooks in your area, and you really get to exchange and learn from them. In all these meetings I've been to, I've learned so much from these giants in their field, and also they got to know me. So it's really a mutual type of a benefit. You also get clinical trials through those networking through these meetings. And then you get to access some cutting edge resources. At your institution, you might be able to have very advanced imaging techniques which get developed just because your institution was selected for a clinical trial. Then you can get salary support as a PI, and then you can also support salary of research staff. So then you have research staff who can help you with your investigator-initiated trials, as well as you can protect your time. If you have 10 trials, you can add those small salary supports and get one day off from your daily routine and just do clinical trials, because now you have salary support for doing those clinical trials. So what's the road to becoming a PI? This is what I learned. First step is become a renowned clinician in your area of specialty. just be a good doctor. Your reputation is going to travel. People will start knowing about you. Industry will start knowing about you. And that's how you get approached. So that's the step one. Second thing is develop a rapport with other PIs and tell them that you would like to help in their clinical trials as a sub-I. That way you also got to go to these meetings, and you get to learn from the PI how a clinical trial gets done. You do ratings, and those sponsors, they also start knowing your emerging name and reputation. Seek opportunities for networking. Like I said, on those meetings, talk to other PIs, network. In America, the criteria for promotion is really your regional and national reputation. From an assistant to associate professor, you have to have a regional reputation. And from associate to full professor, you have to have a national reputation. So that way you get to connect with other people in the field in different parts of the country who otherwise you would have never had the opportunity to talk to or work with. The CROs, if you come across them, these are the clinical research organizations who conduct a clinical trial. They usually, you will come on their radar, but feel free to let them know that you are interested in clinical trials. Industry gets to know you, who basically sponsor the clinical trial. Do not hesitate to tell them that you are interested in clinical trials. You have to learn regulations of your governing authority. In America, it is FDA. In Pakistan, it is the DRAP. You need to know the country regulations. You need to know the ethics of doing clinical trials. There are courses available on good clinical practices. It takes about 3 hours to complete that course, and it really gives you a comprehensive review about what you need to know about clinical trials and cover these aspects. So a good tip from me is that try to develop a database for your patients, especially if you are dealing with a disease which is attractive for clinical trials. In my case, it was Parkinson's disease, where we have newer treatments coming out every 6 months, what to talk of 1 year. So if you have a database of your patients, then when anyone approaches you, you immediately can tell them that how many patients there are in your practice. And if you are very sophisticated in your database, then you would also know how many have dementia, how many are falling, or things like how many are hallucinating, those kind of things. But at least at a minimum, try to have the disease types in your database so that you are ready for taking clinical trials. And most of all, you have to deliver in your commitments. When you commit to a clinical trial, you have to deliver in enrolling subjects, as well as carrying out the clinical trial in the way you are supposed to. You deliver on one, and then it's pretty much like in America, I give the example, the hardest part is to get the first credit card. The moment you get the first credit card, then you just have a credit card arriving in your mailbox every week. So once you get the first clinical trial, the rest come easy, because now you are a serious player and you have delivered. So who are the players you need to know in clinical trials? First is the regulator. As I said, it is FDA in America and DRAP in Pakistan. Next come the sponsor. These are the industry big names you have heard about. Then the sponsor really puts in all the money and hires a clinical research organization which have a full infrastructure to do the clinical trial. And those are the ones where you interact the most with in doing the clinical trial. And then you are the PI and then your study staff. So what is a PI's universe at the study site? We talked about the CRO, but your other players are your coordinator and the IRB or the ethics committee. I'm going to talk about them in a little while. And then you have the sub-investigator. Sub-investigator is pretty much your junior colleague, or he can be your senior colleague as well. You have a clinical trial and you want a blinded rater for that trial. That can be your colleague, and they are put on the documentation, and they become the sub-investigator. Then you deal with the Office of Research and the research manager in your organization. And most of all, and it's the subjects you deal with. You are their prime protectors, and and I call the subjects the real heroes of the clinical trial. Sometimes subjects, when I'm offering a clinical trial, and they say that, yeah, I'm willing, I would be willing to be your guinea pig. And I tell them that, no, you guys are not guinea pigs. You guys are heroes, because you are taking levodopa because someone about 50 years back said yes to a clinical trial where levodopa was involved. So it's because of you that newer treatments come out, and you guys are heroes. And really, it's not just saying it, you have to treat them really in a VIP manner also. Any subject who participates in your clinical trial is really doing a big favor to you, as well as to science and humanity. So overall overview of the PI's responsibility, the biggest thing you need to understand is the buck really stops at you as a PI. A PI is responsible to ensure that the clinical trial is conducted at the site as per the signed contract, investigational plan, and regulations. It's this one line, it's very important to understand. These are all the things you are responsible for doing. Now, you are going to have all the support from your institution, but really you are the one where the buck stops. This point is often ignored by many PIs, but I tell you that you have to look at your subjects or your patients as if they are your family members. And so do not subject them to a drug or a treatment when you are not convinced about the science. I have in my career, at some point, I initially took a clinical trial, and at some point there was more data which came. I was less convinced about the trial. I expressed that to the company. I told them that I cannot continue on this based on these reservations. Though, of course, I was not too popular for that company after that, and I never received any further trials. But really, I mean, you have to sleep at night knowing that you have done really everything in the most ethical way. So understand the science behind that treatment. If you are not convinced, do not take that trial. Your responsibility is to protect rights, safety, and welfare of the subjects. And with the help of all the staff at your institution, you're also responsible for informed consent, regulatory documentation. You have to ensure that your study staff is qualified and trained for the study, and compliance with the study protocol is ensured. You are responsible for IRB approval, and you maintain communication with the IRB, and you evaluate any safety events. Now, this may sound very overwhelming, and don't be intimidated by this list. There are people at your site which do all of that, but basically you have to oversee that and understand that you are still responsible for that. So all of that will be, many of these things would be done by other people in your site, but you need to understand that it is still your responsibility as overseeing that. Research study coordinator. Now, he or she should be your best friend in a clinical trial. You are bound to fail in your clinical trial if you do not have a good research study coordinator. So PI is after PI, the most important person is really the study coordinator. Really spend time in training that person and really keeping that person's morale up, as you don't want to lose a trained study coordinator. they are really responsible in making sure that all of the things which I listed in the previous slide are really happening. So they are the ones who every day they are taking signatures from you. Integrity is very important. You want to make sure that they are doing everything with integrity. There's no way you can really micromanage that, and no one is expecting you to do that. But that's why it's important that you find a person who is enthusiastic, full of integrity, and is willing to learn. Making them trained and is easy, really. The companies which do the clinical trials are going to help with the training. Everyone, you and the coordinator and the sub-Is are going to be fully trained in what you are required to do. So do not think that this is something you do not want to take because you don't know it. Of course, no one knows about these things till you are trained about it. The relationship is very important. Don't become like a boss for that coordinator. Just keep them very approachable. They should be able to have access to you so that they can immediately tell you if there's a concern from a safety or any other standpoint, because they are your frontline soldiers who get to hear from the patients as well as from the CROs. So you need to be accessible to them. And then you are signing on a bunch of documents every day. So access is key. The other research personnel, we talked about the sub-investigator. The other person is the research manager, and that is really the job of the institution to provide you with a good research manager who oversees the trial finances and supervises the coordinator. Sometimes that can become a very neglected area, which can result in frustrations for the PI and coordinators, but that's really the job of your department and institution. There have been lectures on IRB, and I'm not going to spend too much time on that, but basically an IRB as a PI, they are very important partner for your clinical trials. They are the ethics committee on human research. Their job is to protect the rights, welfare, and privacy of human research subjects at the institution. They do reviews to assure both in advance and by periodic review that appropriate steps are taken to protect the rights and welfare of human subjects. IRB has the authority to approve, disapprove, monitor, and require modifications in all research activities that fall under its jurisdiction. So it's a very powerful body, but it's there to really protect your subjects, and as a result of protecting your subjects, to protect you as well. Trial budgeting, that's often a topic which PIs are not really told about, and I had to learn the hard way in many things and with experience. But basically, your research manager should be an experienced one, and when they are doing the budgeting for the trial at your institution, the factors they have to consider include institutional overheads, investigator and coordinator salary, efforts by your sub-I, IRB fee, recruitment costs, study startup and closeouts, study visits, assessments, procedures, equipment, diagnostic tests, lab fees, storage, shipping of samples, site-based IT data management, and electronic data capture. So all of this becomes much easy if you are working in an institution which already has an infrastructure for clinical trials. But these are important considerations. And in the end, the most important message in doing any research and any clinical trial is integrity, integrity, and integrity. That's the most important thing, message in any research. So in conclusion, clinical trials are a win-win for science, patients, industry, investigators, departments, and institutions. The monetary benefits from clinical trials can translate into development of research and clinical infrastructure at the departmental, institutional, and country level. Becoming an investigator offers you opportunities for career advancement, reputation building, and contributing in bringing new treatments for suffering patients. So really, this whole thing, if all done well, it's a win-win from a Pakistan standpoint. They get billions of dollars of clinical trials. It brings in foreign exchange, and it's for your personal advancement as well as your institution and everything. These are all the institutions which played a important role in what I am today. And I'm really thankful to all the teachers at those institutions, everyone who taught me in becoming what I am. And with that, I thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Siddiqui, for this wonderful summary. For those of you who are not aware, Professor Siddiqui is also the chair of APPNA Merit Research Subcommittee, a very active subcommittee with some really big stalwarts, very, very well achieved members. And we are working on many things behind the scene, trying to develop infrastructures for supporting the culture of research long term in Pakistan. So, we are on a multi-year planning of launching things, and we'll see if Dr. Siddiqui would want to comment on that later on the things he's working with in the research committee in APPNA Merit. I want to remind a few things to everyone. Before I forget, we are doing a Merit Research and Innovation Conference in person in Pakistan. So this will be December 22nd at Rawalpindi Medical University. And the goal is to gather everyone who has been part of these research and innovation webinars to come to one platform to do some brainstorming. So we'll network, we'll get to know each other in person, we'll meet face-to-face in person in Rawalpindi, and then we'll also invite some leadership from government sectors like NIH and Ministry of Science and Technology. And we have been reaching out and meeting different people to try to have them come to this session. Many of the excellent speakers that you heard as part of these webinar series will be present there in person. This last weekend, I was at the APPNA Fall meeting, and our chief guest from Pakistan was Asad Umar, the planning minister from Pakistan. And I had a meeting with him with APPNA leadership, and then I again invited him and stressed to him that we need to build this culture of research and innovation in Pakistan if we want to bring foreign direct investment, which is meaningful, that actually creates some innovation change in Pakistan. So we're hoping that he will join, and Minister of Science and Technology has been invited. So we're looking forward to that winter meeting on December 22nd at RMU. And we'll try to arrange some workshops before that meeting for people who are interested in more hands-on learning for research. So stay tuned for that. But block your calendar for December 22nd for sure, and see if you can come join us in person at Rawalpindi Medical University. You can, so general announcements, remember you can send us an email on appnamerit@gmail.com with any questions, comments, or suggestions that you have. In this session, you can raise your hand if you want microphone to make your comments. You can write your question in the chat box, but it will be better if you write in Q&A box if you have any specific question that you want us to address in more detail. And we have started a Discord server, an online platform, kind of like WhatsApp, but a little more advanced, where we are gathering everyone who wants to collaborate on research. You can join that. Waleed, if you can put a link to that Merit Discord server, that people can join and develop research collaboration, talk about different research ideas. It's a gathering place. It's a very busy place. So you'll see a lot of activity happening, but you can cut around and read and find someone relevant to your expertise and network with them through that online virtual platform. So that's another opportunity that you have. Let me start with some general comments with Dr. Siddiqui before I go on to any questions from the audience. And I want to welcome everyone who has come joined us. This is a very open session. These are learning sessions that were initially intended for us specifically, but we made it open for public, for everyone. So feel free to ask any question. There is no right or wrong questions, and anything will be fine. So let me start with you, Professor Siddiqui. Let me ask you if you want to make any comments on what are the things you're working on behind the scene on the Merit Research Committee, and what do you think can promote the research culture in Pakistan?
Yeah, thank you, Danish. So the Merit Research Committee, it's a place where you can bring your ideas. You bring your ideas, you discuss it with the rest of the members who are there. And then if you can find collaborators within, or you can get input from other people who are experienced in the field, then you can make a subgroup or a working group in that committee and take your idea wherever you would like to take it. And you are going to be really the lead for that idea and for that working group. The few things so far, the working committees which have evolved in that, really when we started, we had no idea what, because the word research is so huge. And really in the context of, we also wanted to make sure that वो जो उर्दू की मिसाल है ना कि वो मुद्दई सुस्त कवा चुस्त वाली बात नहीं होनी चाहिए, तो वो we wanted to, but from that, so far, two working groups evolved. One is really in research education about different aspects of research, really doing like a knowing the basic know-how about different aspects of research. And the second working group which evolved is which is now a full-fledged committee, is the artificial intelligence group. And so the first group about the research mentoring committee is by Dr. Faz Anwar from Cleveland Clinic, and the second one is from about artificial intelligence is by Professor Sarwat, and they are leading that. So yeah, we are open to any ideas you want to come. It's open for anyone to join. Bring your ideas and tell us about how you want to proceed with that idea. In terms of research in Pakistan, I think this series has been very enlightening for all of us. There are people who joined who would give comments about different aspects of research, and I think we are in the process at the end, and that is being led by, I think, Dr. Babar Rao. There is a white paper which is going to be produced about really compiling all those things, and then at this end, really submitting it to the government of Pakistan about how research can improve in Pakistan. So we are doing all our bit, but it's hard to keep up with Danish's energies. But really, we try to run as hard as Danish would want us to. Okay. Now, any questions?
Yeah. So I do see a few questions, but let me add a few things to what you said, Mustafa. I think one of the great things that came out of research committee was these research webinars that we have been running, and now that will culminate in the research conference. I think Faiz working group on creating an educational course on research, is a wonderful idea. Now Junaid is in there, who's developing a lot of educational material. Right now, we have a lot of educational material which is just spread out, not in a form of a structure or a curriculum. But that will be the next step to put it together into a structure. I've already shared a lot of Faiz Anwar's material on our Discord server. So people have access to content that he has already created. But what we're missing is a curriculum. Actually, one of our speakers who was from NIMH, from the rheumatology speaker, also shared a lot of material. So if you go to our Discord server, we have an educational resource channel on research, and there's like 30, 40 different resources and educational material shared there. From Artificial Intelligence in Healthcare Committee, Professor Sarwat, who is member of the research committee, but he's already writing papers on introducing AI in healthcare to Pakistani healthcare diaspora. We have written a letter that we have asked APPNA leadership to send to President Alvi, because President Arif Alvi started an initiative of artificial intelligence in Pakistan. That's one of his things that he's doing, or 4 or 5 things. One is nursing, one is artificial intelligence. And what we saw was missing was that there is no healthcare component in the AI initiative that President Alvi had. So Sarwat wrote a very beautiful paper outlining various ways how AI in healthcare can be supported. And we forwarded it to APPNA leadership so that it can be sent to President Alvi's office, so we can see if AI in healthcare can be integrated into those efforts. So I think a lot of things came out of research committee, and we have had discussions about creating resources for researchers in Pakistan, like research coordinators or people who can write research grants and things like that. And we also talked about creating a platform where people can apply for collaboration. And we did a shortcut of starting this Discord server, but we are also trying to come up with a more structured platform on the Merit website where people can put in a request to be collaborated with someone, a mentor or a guide somewhere. So let me take on some questions. So one question is on that I can answer, I guess, is that how much interest Pakistan is showing. So the interest. Pakistan is a broad word, right? It's eventually it's individual players. So it could be institutions, it could be government, it could be universities, it could be lab. But I think we are seeing a lot of interest. One of the interests, for example, we are seeing is from individual universities who wants to collaborate. We're seeing interest from different commercial entities who have started. We're seeing interest from these networks, which are called National Centers for Robotics and Automation and National Center for Artificial Intelligence, which are multiple labs in various universities who are interested in collaborating. So there is interest, but the one of the challenges, and maybe Mustafa, you can comment on it. One of the challenges is that people come to us with a very, very broad thing. And the problem of research is that it has to be very narrowly defined. You have to have a very well-defined scope of what you want to do. In education, it's easy. In education, you can come to me and can say, let's do education in cardiology. And I'll have 5 ideas, you'll have 5 ideas, and we can do something. But in research, you cannot come to me and say, okay, let's do research in cardiology. Because there are 100,000 papers in cardiology. Which research are you talking about? What topic? So I think one of the challenges is that the language of communication of research is missing. It's very precise. And when we talk to each other about let's do research, we are not using the precise language of what typically we do in a research collaboration. What's your impression, Dr. Siddiqui, and what kind of requests you have had, and how do you guide people who are interested but are too broad when we're reaching out to you?
Yeah, and that's a very important point which Dr. Bhatti made. And so research, is a very broad term, as Dr. Bhatti said. If you look at it from different angles, it might be easier for you to understand. So let's say you are a medical student and you are interested in research. The way I would, I tell my medical students is that, first of all, I ask them that how much time do you have? So then I bring them in for a discussion. Now, your mentor should have a good idea what are the knowledge gaps in that field. So then you give your medical student, because your medical student doesn't have that idea. Any research worth doing should end up in you presenting an abstract in a national meeting, or at least in some sort of a forum. It should not be just that, well, I did research and this is what I found. So it should have some level of peer presentation or peer review. So when the medical student comes to you, you guide them, and then you give them a program about the methods, that this is how you're going to collect the data, and you really work with them, and then the medical student really collects that data. So as a medical student, your research, when you do your first project with an experienced mentor, you will learn about different aspects of research. Now, if you are a PI, or then pretty much what I spoke about today. And then there are some other areas of research, like epidemiology. Basically, I would say that identifying a mentor is your first step in doing that, and then your mentor can guide you into the next step, instead of just shooting emails everywhere that I'm interested in research and really trying to make something out of that.
Thank you. So for people who are asking about research resources, it's on our Merit Discord server. Discord is kind of like WhatsApp, a little more advanced. So you can go to YouTube and look up what is Discord. It's a free program. You can download it just like WhatsApp and sign up. And then you can join the link that has been shared in chat. It's bit.ly/merit Discord. And all the resources are shared there in a resource section or channel, they call them over there. And then people who are interested in getting started with research, if you want to see some results right away, easiest way to start with research is to write some basic paper. And those are usually review papers or a case report or a case series. And you can find some mentors in the Merit Discord section, which are already doing it. Even if you don't have your own ideas, there are people who are sharing ideas there. Dr. Junaid Kalia is very active here in neurology area, and there are some others. And if you post a specific topic that I'm interested in research in cardiology, then the cardiologists in those channels can respond to you and say, okay, here's an idea. What Dr. Siddiqui was saying is very important, is that when you don't know what is publishable, what are people looking for, then go to someone who's doing it and ask them, okay, what is a project that you've been delaying or deferring that I can help you with? And we all had ideas or projects that we have lined up because we don't have time to work on them. And when someone come to me and say, I want to write on Parkinson's disease, or to Dr. Siddiqui, we can give you 10 things. We can give you easily one thing to say, okay, start reviewing this topic in this question. And then, let's write on it. And that's an easy way to get started. But if you are looking for more project-based research, a prospective study, then you need an institutional mentor, or if you already have access to data and patients, then we can hook you up with a virtual mentor. Do you want to add anything to this, Dr. Siddiqui?
Yeah, and I will just add a little example. So one of the things we think in Pakistan is that, well, we don't have the resources. Well, how am I going to go any further with the available? Well, I'll give you an example of myself. So I graduated in 1989, and I was in CMH in Combined Military Hospital, Ahmedabad. And at that time, I noticed that there was a mini epidemic of meningococcal disease happening in Ahmedabad. And so for me, it was like every year, about 10 military recruits would die from meningococcal disease. And as a result, and nothing was being done about it because of lack of vaccine or anything. So I really went to my medical specialist there and I told them, well, I would like to compile these cases and let's do something about it. And he was all encouraging. He told me what data to collect and how. So I went into that dusty room of medical records. I went through those 40 cases which were reported in the last year. I compiled it on a piece of paper. And then the issue was, okay, how do I know what to do next? Because my internship was coming to an end and I was about to be posted to Kashmir in hard area. So and we are talking of 1990 now, where we did not have internet. So I actually wrote to my brother who was in Chicago that please get these papers from your Northwestern University library and mail it to me. I got those papers. I learned how to present data from learning from those papers. And I really compiled all those cases of that meningococcal disease. And then I used it later on for my FCPS dissertation. So really, the message is that whatever your circumstances, try to find out a clinical question and then go to your mentor. And case series are easy to do. And like Dr. Bhatti said, if it's a rare thing, in Pakistan, there are so many rare things, I'm always surprised, then do a case report. And that would be publishable as well.
Talking about rare things, Dr. Siddiqui, I will share with you that I just diagnosed a case from Pakistan. So they're Pakistani descent or origin, Pakistani diaspora in Omaha, Nebraska, with ataxia with oculomotor apraxia type 2. And AOA type 2 in Asian population has never been described. So, it's always European descent type 2. And now we have a case of AO type 2 from a Pakistani diaspora. So, imagine I'm diagnosing it here in Omaha, Nebraska, middle of nowhere from Pakistan family. So there's so much pathology in Pakistan that has not been described and reported, which is a huge potential. Let me quickly answer two of the questions or comments I see. One is from Dr. Imran Mirza about the status of white paper on research. Dr. Mirza, it's a work in progress. The goal is to write it formally next year. What we're doing is collecting data. So every session that we do, we write a summary, a 5-minute summary of each session. And the goal will be that we'll take these summaries and then we'll add some references and we'll write a formal paper next year. If you're interested in being part of it, this will be led by Professor Sarwat, who will be the lead for this writing group. So send an email to appnamerit@gmail.com and let us know that you're interested, and we'll get you into that writing group, and we'll be happy to add you as an author. I saw a comment about collaboration with people in UAE. Would love to do that. Please send an email to appnamerit@gmail.com and let me know what suggestions you have or thoughts or ideas, and we welcome that. We can talk more about it. I see a comment there by Dr. or Mr. Mohammed Hasib Saab about can anyone from non-medical background like allied health professional be PI? Well, number one, allied health professional are medical background. So medicine is very broad. Medicine is not just physicians. It's also nurses, nurse practitioners, allied healthcare providers, social workers, so on and so forth. So you are from the medical background. And yes, you can be a PI. There's so much research that happens on rehabilitation. I do a lot of research on gait problems in Parkinson's disease. And many of those projects are actually led by people who are doing PhDs in physical therapy and physiatry and rehab. And I also collaborate with non-medical people. So there is a science of biomechanics of human movement, which is actually not physicians for sure, or not healthcare providers. And there is a department of biomechanics, and I do research with them. They are the PI, and I'm just a collaborator with them on gait biomechanics of Parkinson's disease and things like that. So there is so many ideas that actually are studied by non-physicians. And these days, actually research by nurses is rising a lot more than research increase by physicians. So yes, anybody can do research. It doesn't have to be a medicine or a clinician point of view or a physician's point of view. And physicians can collaborate. And I work under many of allied health workers and others who are doing academic research, and I collaborate with them in Parkinson's research. And let me take one more point here and then add Dr. Siddiqui here. I see a question there. There's a lack of research in Pakistan, lack of funding and of educate reasons our research not been conducted in the country in large enough scale. Mostly people interested to publish the papers, not in researches. I think that point is partly true. I think the kind of research you are mentioning, Dr. Shehwar, is about the clinical trials and device trials and design. And even there, I think there is opportunities, and there's just lack of knowledge. We have had people from different robot labs, automation labs, and AI labs here in webinars and off webinars. We met with them, and they're already doing clinical research where they're doing it on their own by directly going to the patient without having physicians collaborators. And they write published papers in IEEE journals, which are like very, very high journals in robotics and things like that. So there are opportunities that are just not open or available to everyone, or people don't know about them. And then yes, there is some funding lack, partly because the biggest funding resource is industry, healthcare industry in America, even bigger than NIH. And the problem is that the healthcare industry in Pakistan has been challenged and not done clinical research, but let's leave it at that. Any comments from you?
Danish, I think Dr. Samia Taslim has a question. I think she's raising her hand. So if you want to allow her to
go ahead, Dr. Taslim.
Thank you for give me a chance to talk. You arranged a very wonderful session throughout here. I have running the two projects. One project is for the wound care system management, and second is AI sepsis management. So how can both research collaborate with your programs, and give me some connection to you come in Pakistan and conduct the conference in physical? How can join this conference? Any advertisement you share to attend these conference? And any term of collaboration is the joint working group, because our research group working in Karachi. So how can link with you for different area? We developed one research group in different subject experts in allied health sciences. We have genetic engineers, we have genetics experts, and basic sciences experts.
Yeah, so let me quickly answer, and maybe Dr. Siddiqui can add to it. For the conference, we will be sending out flyers. We have not sent it out just because we have the date locked. I have been announcing the date in few of the sessions, but yes, there will be information on how to sign up. We might broadcast it online, but all the speakers and everyone will be in person for December 22nd. For December 21st, we'll do some workshops virtually, but the 22nd day will be all in person for people who want to travel to Rawalpindi to attend. And as far as collaboration, there are two levels of collaboration, Dr. Taslim. First level of collaboration is just being able to get to each other, reach out to someone. So you can reach out to us through APPNA Merit, through these webinars. You can reach out to through the Merit Discord server that we have created, and where you can, pitch your idea or your research to anyone, or ask a question from someone. So that's a general kind of a broad collaboration, like we're collaborating right now. Right? You're sharing your ideas with me, and I'm sharing my ideas with you. Now, when you talk about very specific collaboration, which is second level collaboration, that I'm doing on research on Parkinson's disease and falls in Parkinson's disease, then you need that specific person who is doing that kind of research and can guide you. And that's where we're trying to create a platform where we have a list of all the experts from our side, and we know what their areas of expertise is, so that when someone reach out to us with a very specific topic, that this is a research I'm doing, and for example, I know you do research on burn and wound healing, and then we'll say, okay, we need an antimicrobial expert, or we need someone who has done research on wound healing or things like that, and then connect you with that person. Now that part is still a development in process. It's a slower process, but at least we're trying to at least provide open platforms to anyone to pitch their ideas, and see if there is someone available to talk with them.
Because we are connected to DICE in Pakistan. We have certain issues. Our product is patented in Pakistan. We market in all over the world. We need to certain US patent and international patent, and to commercialize these products. So we need certain collaboration to work jointly.
Right. So that's what I'm saying, that the very specific collaboration or challenges you have, we're still trying to develop an infrastructure for that level, where you say, this is exact problem I have, and we get you the right person. For your patenting and for your commercialization question, Dr. Uzair is a very good resource. He has helped with a lot of that. You've also connected with Dr. Baba Rao, who's a dermatologist who is looking at developing products and commercialization. And we'll see, whoever else comes to our mind, we'll be happy to connect. But you could post your ideas in all these platforms and see if someone specific comes up. We don't have a list right now of people with those kind of specific skills for each areas. Anything to add, Dr. Siddiqui?
No, I think you addressed that, and I'm going to make this as a more generalized statement, that the first step is to really start from your own specialty. Go to society meetings. There you are going to get collaborators. One person in that society meeting might have international collaborators, and if that idea is very attractive, then that one person can let you connect with the right people in your particular idea, in your specialty field with their. But again, this is more like a generalized type of a statement, which is applicable for all kinds of research.
All right. Well, we're 5 minutes over the hour. Let's stop here, and we'll continue our conversations in the next sessions. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Siddiqui.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for joining.